welcome back to my channel. Recently, Candace Owens, some lover, some hater, made some horrifying, shocking, one might say appalling, comments about the presence of disabled models in a Skims underwear ad. So I always like to watch the original footage before I generate an opinion on the subject.
I think people in wheelchairs will back me up on this.
Yeah, I'm not really sure about that, Candace, but let's see what you have to say.
So it is a Skims campaign, and it is a woman that is in a bra and underwear. Skims is the undergarment brand that is owned by Kim Kardashian. She's in a bra and underwear, and she's in a wheelchair. Really? That's all I'm gonna say is really. I don't really understand how far we're gonna take this inclusivity thing. I really don't get it. I don't know, and if I'm wrong, again, educate me. Today I just wanna be educated in the comments. Why did they do this? I don't know. I don't know why this needed to be done. I'm just getting tired of this all inclusivity thing. It seems ridiculous.
As a full-time wheelchair user, wheelchair, I don't back you up on this. I think this is the quote that really stuck with me most from this episode.
Look, I assumed that people that were in wheelchairs also have to buy bras, that have to buy underwear. It's just something that I just assumed that was a thing. I didn't know that we needed to see that in our face. I didn't know that now we're gonna have to look forward to campaigns where women that are in wheelchairs are now wearing bras and underwears because we as a society just cannot get to the bottom of our ridiculousness.
You didn't know we needed to see it. Well, I didn't know I needed to see non-disabled people in my face when I see an ad, and yet I see it every day, every single day. It's ridiculous. See, seeing a garment on an able-bodied person doesn't help me understand how that piece of clothing might actually fit me, because I have a disabled body. So garments fit me differently. So it's actually very helpful to see a disabled model and see how the piece of clothing might fit a body that's similar to mine. And that's why a lot of people like to see models actually wearing the clothing, not just a mannequin, because mannequins are not an accurate representation of how a piece of clothing actually fits on someone's body. It's just not. So this is why representation is necessary. It actually helps disabled people know whether or not a product will work for them.
And educate me.
Also, what she said is very reminiscent of the Ugly Law days. These laws, they basically just banned people with disabilities from being able to go out in public just because they didn't look like an able-bodied person. I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to learn more about that. These laws actually made it very difficult for people with disabilities to find employment. The connection between these laws and the employment of disabled people in the circus industry has a unique history, which is a really interesting topic for another day. But if you want to do some research on it, I'll leave some links in the description below if you want to check those out too. Candace's quote also reminds me of the pre-504, pre-American with Disabilities Act days, when disabled people had to fight for the right to public education, the ability to access public places, and were forced to live in institutionalized settings instead of having the option to live in their own home and be involved in the community. So basically, prior to the passage of disability rights legislation, disabled people had the right to live, but essentially they didn't have the right to freedom of movement or privacy. And disabled people are still fighting for these rights today. Just as an example, you can look up the Cures Act and the implementation of EVV, and I'll leave some links down below if you want to check that out too.
I'm just getting tired of this all inclusivity thing. It seems ridiculous. I mean, we're gonna be on crutches and be like, well, how come we don't have a girl that's broken her leg on crutches also in a bra and underwear? I don't feel included. I don't know, I don't think I can buy panties. I just can't buy panties because I don't know, I don't feel included.
Yeah, I'm not really sure why mockery is necessary here, but yeah. Anyway, it's not that a disabled person won't buy something because they're not represented or because they don't feel included. The issue here is that a disabled person doesn't know if a product will work for them because they have a disability or possibly a different body type. So seeing a disabled person using a product helps us know as disabled people whether or not a product will actually be helpful or useful to us. So when she says,
when I see stuff like this, I just go, whose idea was this? Was it your idea? Okay, you're fired. I'd like to fire the person who was behind this ridiculous campaign.
That is actually a really horrible idea because you would be firing a very smart, strategic employee who thinks it might be a good idea to cater some of the company's products or services towards a population that represents 26% of the American population. Because 26% of Americans have some form of a disability. So yeah, it might actually be a very good idea to have advertisements that are geared towards that population so that that population of people might actually buy your product. Because if that population can't use the product, they're not gonna buy it. It's obvious. It's just smart marketing. And I'll circle back to this point later in the video about advertising and things, but her idea to fire the employee that came up with this idea is a fairly ignorant one. So anyway, many TikTok videos and articles and Instagram reels later, Candace responded to the backlash that she received regarding these statements about these Skims ads.
A woman wrote to me and said, I wanted to be a model growing up, and seeing this woman made me realize that I could be one. Okay, so what you're saying there is that you want to be patronized. You want people to essentially hand out participation trophies. You're perhaps not the best person suited for this particular role, but you want people to give it to you anyway. First and foremost, it is important for me to tell the world something, irrespective of whether or not you're Black, disabled, or you are fat, whatever the issue is. I want you to know something. Everything is not for you. That's the truth. Nobody wants to tell you guys this. I know in a way where everyone's like, I need to be seen everywhere. I need to see myself everywhere. Everything is not meant to be for you. So I'll ask the question, is it an act of love to encourage people to pursue pathways simply because it makes them feel good? Representation, here you go, ready? Hear me out, does not matter. Contribution does. Actual talent does. Hard work does. Family does. God does. You're never going to find out what it is that God gifted you with if you're wasting your time demanding to be let into other people's gifts. In fact, you're ignoring the gifts when you sit back and you envy somebody else's.
So I just have a question for Candace really here. Maybe it's a statement or questions with statements, whatever, that's irrelevant. But this is just something to think about too, just for anyone who watches Candace's video and maybe this video too. But who said that this model and just many other disabled actors, artists, directors, entertainers, pretty much just any disabled employee in general, didn't work really hard to get where they are today? It takes a lot of work to reach success in the entertainment industry. Things aren't just handed to you. You have to really work for it. There's a lot of competition. And honestly, the idea that disabled people don't work for anything that they're given and that they don't work for anything at all and everything is just handed to them is an ableist concept. So
first and foremost, let's debunk the idea that I am an ableist.
And then Candace also mentions this part about God's gifts. Well, who determines what God's gifts are? Is it you? Is it me? Is it Candace? Is it God? I mean, only God knows what God's gifts are. And it takes a while to figure out what your gifts are. You have to explore different career paths, different hobbies, to figure out what God's gifts are to you. So if someone wants to explore the possibility of being a model, they should have the right to do that, whether or not they're disabled or not. So that whole statement Candace made about God's gifts, that just confuses me. I'm not really sure how that's relevant because Candace doesn't determine that. She can't judge what God's gifts are. Only God knows that. Also, wait, I just wanted to circle back to the point in this whole video where she says that the whole concept of representation is quote unquote ridiculous in this ad. At least regarding this ad, it's ridiculous. I think what is actually ridiculous about this entire clip is this.
I really appreciate you explaining to me that Skims actually developed a unique technology, and that is the reason why they were promoting these ads, because it makes it easier for people that are in wheelchairs to get into a bra and underwear.
This ad was created for disabled people. It was for an adaptive clothing line. So again, whoever created this ad was just using smart marketing tactics. You want to cater the ad towards a population that you're targeting. So you should probably use a model that possibly looks like them. It's an adaptive clothing line. Mind blowing, right? It's baffling. But I'm glad that she at least learned that, and after she learned this fact, she did say this.
It makes it easier for people that are in wheelchairs to get into a bra and underwear, and that's something to celebrate. It really is. We should always, with technology, be trying to make things easier for people, whether you are disabled, whether you're super tall and you can't get into super small clothing. All of that is wonderful and all of that is great.
So the model was the right person for the job. So I don't really get how, again, referring back to her patronizing clip where she mentions, that people want to be patronized. She's not being patronized at all because she was right for the job. They needed a disabled model to represent their adaptive clothing line. That's just logical. I do have to say, I think representation matters, but I agree that people should work for their success. Success shouldn't just be handed out to people. But again, this whole issue Candace has with this ad is just confusing in general, because all it is a model sitting down. There are plenty of ads for underwear where models are sitting down. The only difference here is that instead of sitting in a regular chair, this chair has wheels. So that's ridiculous to me. That's the part that's ridiculous. Why is the presence of wheels so horrible? I don't get it. So also in this video, Candace mentioned something that an activist said about representation and the importance of representation in media.
Paula Carozzo, who is the creator and also a disability rights activist, and she said in this article, quote, "For the disability community, we are at the current peak of representation. Representation for us is as vital as the lungs we need to breathe." Okay? If representation and seeing yourself in an ad campaign is as important for you as your 2 working lungs that you need to breathe, that's totally fine. I have some things to say about that.
And as I said before, representation is so important. It helps disabled people know if a product is going to work for them, and if a travel destination will work for them, or if a car will work for them, or a restaurant, or a pair of shoes. There are many examples, and it helps people understand and know whether or not a product will physically work for them when they see a disabled model modeling that product. It's also essential in creating a mentally healthy society. It really helps build up a healthy mind when you see other people like you in society in general. It also helps integrate disabled people into society and eradicate the concept that disabled people are strange, weird, and bizarre. For example, when I was a kid, people like me were rarely seen in media, and when we were seen, we were usually cast as the story's villain or some inspirational person in the story. Basically, due to this, kids were really apprehensive to engage with me when I was a kid because they didn't know how to approach me. Basically, when disabled people are represented frequently in the media, children and adults are reassured that disabled people aren't some being that they should avoid. I do think that as disabled people, though, we do need to keep in mind that representation should not rule our lives. Candace did say one thing that caused me to reflect on this a bit.
Everybody knows, in fact, that you have to see a model doing something to know that you're allowed to do it. Until I saw a black woman wearing clothes on a billboard, I was naked my whole life. I was just butt naked walking around. Until I saw Tyra Banks wearing clothes on Top Model, I was naked. So thank you, representation matters, because in order for us to have permission to do anything, we must have a model that does it first. It's another nonsense.
So, in a way, I can agree with what she's saying at this particular moment. Lack of representation shouldn't stop disabled people from trying to succeed at something. We shouldn't be dependent on representation to give us permission to try something or to do something. She also said something really important regarding social media.
Why do people aspire to be like Gisele Bündchen and to be like Kendall Jenner rather than aspiring to be like, I don't know, Stephen Hawking? There's the answer to that question, because vanity and excess has become so woven into the American fabric that to some people, it's literally all that matters. We've all become empty vessels. If your self-worth is being generated from likes and clicks and underwear campaigns and the manufactured hope that you can be just like Kendall Jenner, then I feel sorry for you. Not because you're in a wheelchair, not because you're clinically obese, but because you need God. That's the truth. This is not a comment directed solely at disabled people. It's a commentary for everyone who aimlessly scrolls on Instagram, looking at ads, hoping to find God, because that's what it is. You are searching for spiritual fulfillment, and I hope that you find it.
I do agree that excessive use of social media is very detrimental to people's mental health. At this point in her podcast episode, I started to wonder if her comments about representation were less about representation and were at their core more about the state of mental health in our society. I can't quite tell if she just didn't articulate her thoughts well and she just jumped in to this emotional rant, or if she really thinks that diversity in the modeling and entertainment industries really doesn't matter. I don't know. What do you guys think? Anyway, those are my thoughts on the subject. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think representation matters? What are your thoughts on what Candace said? And how has representation helped you? Comment down below and let me know. Anyway, that's it for today's video. If you've enjoyed today's content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that little bell button down below to receive a notification the next time I upload a video. I hope you guys have a phenomenal day, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys. It also helps integrate disabled people into society and eradicate the concept, let me say that sentence again. See, this is why I should not be an actor. I am gonna mess up my lines a million times. Anyway, but I guess that just comes with practice. Practice makes perfect.